Traders, how are you? Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy, co-founder of Speed Up Trader. Today we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. So, for those of you guys watching A Wandering Trader, I normally talk about travel when I travel around the world, but I'm going to start uploading these videos here on that YouTube channel as well. Don't forget, you guys can listen on the podcast. Just look up Day Trading Academy or my name, Marcello Arrambide, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it. Go ahead and try spelling that 3 times fast. The interesting week, we had a lot of different news. One is very, very big news on Bitcoin. I'm not a Bitcoin fanatic, let's say, like most of these people that say Bitcoin is the new Jesus, but I do think that there's a use for part of the technology in Bitcoin. There's also some pretty big news as well in regards to an anarchist trying to literally kidnap and take over the state of Michigan. And I think this is something, they say that kidnappings only happen in Mexico and in Colombia and everywhere else. Like, this is happening in the US now, really? So it's been a really interesting week, and let's jump right into it. So Monday markets were higher. Tuesday, markets went down after Trump said that he's not going to agree to the $2.4 trillion stimulus and he's going to wait to negotiate after the election. Wednesday, the market surged after he said that, well, he might support some other different measures if it was a direct stimulus where you get $1,200 directly to the people instead of all the extra stuff that they want to put in the $2.4 trillion stimulus. If I'm not mistaken, I think the difference was between a $2.4 trillion for the Democrats and I think $1.6 trillion for the Republicans. Now, remember, I don't get political when I do these videos, so no matter what side you're on, I think we're both tired of I don't know about you, but I'm fed up with all of these political ads on YouTube and Google and absolutely everywhere. So I try to just state the facts. If you love Obama, hate Obama, love Trump, hate Trump, let's leave that out of it. I'm just reporting the facts, all right? Thursday, the market was higher after there was bets on a partial stimulus. There was lifted sentiment in regards to that and after the comments from Trump. And then Friday, we had the markets go higher after a boosted bit of optimism in regards to some uncertainty in regards to the election. Now, for the week, the Dow went up 3.26%. For the year, it's still up 0.17. S&P 500 is up 3.84% for the week. For the year, it's up 7.63. And the NASDAQ is up 7.45% for the week and a big 29.06% for the year. The S&P 500 had its second weekly gain. The NASDAQ has its biggest percentage gain since July. In overseas market news, and one of the things I want to get your opinion on as well, I know most of you guys are watching from the US, but we do have viewers from the UK and Canada and Nigeria and other places as well. So if you guys want me to give you, I've been thinking about just kind of changing the format a little bit where the international markets, I just let you know whether they're relatively higher or lower. Let me know if you actually want to know the exact percentage rates of the biggest winners and things like that. For example, the European markets were overall higher this week, and the biggest winner was the Euro next at 5.18%. So what I'm thinking about doing is possibly saying, well, overall the markets in Europe were higher this week. So some of you guys in Europe or in Canada or in Australia might want to know the exact number, so just let me know there in the comments. Latin American markets were mostly positive as well. The Merval in Argentina, the biggest winner at 5.04%. Africa and the Middle East, Nigeria, the biggest winner at 5.29%. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Nigeria is set to have the biggest, look on a map, Nigeria, and they're set to have the third largest population in the world by 2050. In that little tiny country. It's incredible. Other than that, in the Far East, Asian, Australian markets, the Sensex in India went up by 4.68%. The biggest winner there, Australia was the biggest winner there at 5.5%. And huge news in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies where we have a lot more institutional investors starting to invest in Bitcoin. And it appears that it's giving a little bit more confidence in regards to the price. It went up 8.25% to about 11,412 with 10 cents. Square, the company Square, the payment processor, announced that they're going to buy 4,709 Bitcoins for a price of $50 million. And that followed the company MicroStrategy, which also said that they're going to be purchasing a significant amount of Bitcoin. Now, the central bank of central banks, and if you guys don't know, central banks are not public. They're not federal. They're literally private owned. You know, the Federal Reserve of the United States is a privately owned bank, if you didn't know. So there's central banks all over the world, right? There's however many countries in the world. I think it's 210, 215, something like that. Well, there's all those central banks, and then we have, you know, the king central bank, which is called the Bank of International Settlements, or the BIS. The BIS, in collaboration, listen to this, in collaboration with the 7 major central banks in the world, including Europe, with registered the trademark digital euro, the digital dollar, the Federal Reserve of the United States, the Bank of Japan. They released a first joint report into central banking digital currencies on October 9th. The Bank of Japan outlined their own specific approach to have a Japan-centric perspective to begin in 2021. Now, I love the idea of Bitcoin. I love the vision that it would be decentralized and we don't have these corrupt government people that have been in government for years just siphoning off our tax dollars, controlling things and deciding what's best for us, right? So I love the idea of actually having a decentralized financial system. I think that's an amazing idea. However, the reason why rich people are rich is because you're not going to take their money away from them. It's that simple. And I think we've seen that over and over again. And obviously people with money or people who control the system are not going to allow the financial system, which allows them to control the system, to be decentralized. This is why I've always said that Bitcoin at the end of the day isn't the future. It's actually the blockchain. If you guys are new and you don't know exactly how this works, we obviously have, you know, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, for example, which is super popular. And then we have blockchain, which is the technology that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies use. And that's what generally people call Bitcoin and cryptos. Now, what's happening with these central banks? Well, they are actually going to create government coin is what I call it. I've talked about it a lot in the past, government coin, and they're going to use the blockchain technology, or what some people call, like Jim Rickards, a great economist and a, you know, financial figure, let's say, distributed ledger technology. So I think this is kind of the kingmaker for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. I think they'll still exist. The value might go down a little bit. You know, it'll still go up and down. It's a financial instrument, just like anything else, like, you know, the USD to the Australian dollar, or a stock, or an option. But I think this really shows what the actual future is going to be like, where we're going to have these individual digital currencies, or what I call government coin, basically. And I don't think Bitcoin is going to actually be what people say it is. Blockchain, yes. I've always told you guys, right? Blockchain is what's going to revolutionize the world. And now with a digital dollar, we're not going to be able to use cash anymore, basically. And they're going to be able to control us and tax us to death. Awesome. Awesome future for everybody. Other than that, financial and banking news, the U.S. Congressional Office estimated that by the year 2020, which is going to end which ended, I should say, the 30th of September, the U.S. deficit was at $3.13 trillion, or about 15.2% of GDP. That's horrible and amazing at the same time, because the amount of money that we've spent with the stimulus and the coronavirus, I thought that number would be a lot higher, like 3, 4, 5 times higher. So we did go into debt quite a bit in regards to this pandemic, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. The country spent $6.55 trillion, but only took in $3.42 trillion in income. Now, if you put this into perspective, and again, this is not political, I'm just going to report the fact. Trump now has almost spent in his entire first term the amount of debt that Obama did throughout his entire 8 years. And Obama, in his 8 years, spent more debt than every other president combined in the United States history. Now, so you see, it doesn't matter what side you're on. At the end of the day, the debt is going to kill us, especially when the interest rate starts coming up. I wanted to do a video about the collapse of the dollar and how we got into this situation, because at the end of the day, this is why I don't like big government, because at the end of the day, people are corrupt, right? So where's all this money going? I mean, you guys got a $1,200 check probably, right? I did too. But where's all this other money going? And eventually this is going to come to bite us in the behind. Now, as the share of the economy estimated in 2020, the deficit is 3 times larger than what the annual deficit was in 2019, and it's the highest since just after World War II. Trump called for a larger stimulus, but still is insisting that he doesn't want to give money to things, for example, like the states, because Trump is saying that he doesn't want to have the extra stimulus money to be able to give to what they're saying, Trump and the Republicans, that they're going to bail out the blue states like California and New York. Again, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. I'm just reporting the facts. So don't get all political army in the comments. The Iranian rial, which is the currency from Iran, hit a record low under the pandemic and U.S. sanctions. It's selling at about 304,000 on the official market, whereas on the unofficial market, I should say, whereas the official rate is about 42,000 rials per dollar. The currency lost 56% in 2020 based on the drop in oil prices. As you know, Iran, they're essentially just an oil-based economy like Venezuela, for example. And their drop in oil prices is deepening the economic crisis as well. Commodities, global oil prices dropped on Friday, but remained on course for the biggest weekly gain since June. That's obviously due to the supply cuts, due to the hurricanes. My heart goes out to everybody there in Louisiana that got hit again by the last hurricane, and now with Hurricane Delta. It's going to hit with 110 mile per hour winds, 175 kilometers per hour. It's the greatest blow to the U.S. Gulf of Mexico energy production in the last 15 years and halted a lot of the region's oil and nearly 2/3 of the natural gas production. Overall, crude for the week went up 9.58% to $40.60. It's still down 33.69% in 2020. International Brent is up 9.11%, and for the year, it's down 35.15%. Precious metals skyrocketed. I want to do a lot more videos about this because I'm back into the silver market. If you guys remember that have been following me for a while, I've been talking about investing in gold and silver over the last few years, especially when they hit kind of the 50% correction that Jim Rogers talks about, on a rising prospect of an electoral victory by Biden. So even Goldman Sachs has reported that we're most likely would see a market dip if Biden does win the election, and the polls still show, if you want to believe the polls, because they were very, very wrong in the 2016 election, in addition to the Brexit scenario where the polls said that they were going to stay and they actually left. So because of that possible expectation of Biden winning, we have gold rising 1.67% to $1,931. Silver is up 6.01% to $25.22. In political news, we've had a surge in COVID cases as a number of U.S. key states and uncertain prospects for the new aid for, stimulus in regards to the Congress passing that new stimulus bill. The Democrats on Friday unveiled legislation as well to be able to try and create a panel, to a permanent panel to gauge a president's capacity to perform the job. So they essentially want to create literally like a judiciary committee, just a group of guys that are just going to decide whether the president is fit for office or not, which is ironic because they might be doing this to go after Trump. And at the end of the day, this is really, whether you're on the left or the right doesn't matter. It's really just a waste of money and time because you have to have the entire government agree to do this. So they're going to spend all this time and money to be able to pass this legislation, to have this group of people that want to take out the president, whoever the president is, and the Senate, which is controlled by the different party, which is the Republicans, and Trump, are just going to deny it. So it's literally just a giant waste of time. This is why government, especially big government, at the end of the day is just a problem, because most of the times it's just a stalemate. Recent Gallup poll of Americans said that 56% are in a better situation than they were in 2020, which is 4 years ago. Despite the country battling the pandemic, this is the highest rate ever. After 4 years of Obama, that was at 45% in 2008. And after the 4 years of Bush, which was the president before Obama, that was at 47%. So Trump actually has the best numbers of people having their lives improved. This is going to be hard to say. Kyrgyzstan, the parliament finally is going to meet on Saturday and create a new government after a vote, finally ending a power vacuum in the strategically located Central Asian nation. At the end of the day, I know most of you guys aren't going to know where this is, but we have Russia, we have India somewhere around here, and then we have Kyrgyzstan right around here in the middle. It's strategic because there's a lot of transportation and infrastructure, not only roads and railroads, but also, oil pipelines and things like energy. The world literally runs on oil, right? And that literally passes through that entire sector. Other than that, the Bolivia is in a tight race for two presidential candidates. We have the socialist left-leaning candidate Luis Arce, and we also have the centrist former president Carlos Mesa that leads just by 6%. So we'll see what they're going to vote for. In economic news, Americans filing new claims for jobless benefits drifted lower last week after the initial claims for state unemployment benefits totaled a seasonally adjusted 840,000 for the week ending October 3rd. This is upwardly revised from 849,000 the prior week. So essentially what that means is it's going down, but not higher than what economists expected. So the economy is getting a little bit better, but not as better as they wanted it or expected it to be. Canada's doing good as well. After they started reopening, they gained just over 378,000 jobs when they were expecting just 156. Their unemployment rate has gone down to 9.7%. And South Africa, which was already in a recession and struggling with record high unemployment before the COVID, and now in 2019, it hit the world's highest youth unemployment rate at 56%. And now that's gotten even worse due to the fact that the pandemic hit, and it's causing that to get worse. The UK economic growth has slowed as well in August, despite the easing of the lockdowns before the second wave of the Rona, as I call it, the coronavirus. And it is, however, the fourth consecutive month of growth, but it still remains 9.2% below what the economy was in February before the coronavirus hits. In corporate news, AMD, which is Advanced Micro Devices, has decided, advanced talks with a chip maker called Xilinx, Xilinx, in a deal worth over $30 billion. This is going to allow them to compete more effectively, let's say, against Intel. Most of the computers in the world actually have Intel chips in them, and MDA is kind of the smaller player, so it's going to put them more on an even playing field. If you guys want to look that up. In trade news, the EU chief Brexit negotiator Michael Barnier still wants the UK to add more concessions before entering into the final negotiations of the actual trade deal between the UK and Brexit. The deadline is going to be on October 15th, and gaps remain on fishing and a level playing field on things like field issues and governance, probably taxes, right? Because Europe wants to tax everything to death. Both sides have no deal plans, and they have $900 billion in bilateral risk in terms of trade between, I say the European Union is a country, even though it's not a country, but they all use the same currency. So in the economic bloc of the euro between the UK, they have about $900 billion in bilateral trade, which is at risk. In technology, Apple is expected to unveil its next iPhone next week on the 13th. For the first time, an iPhone is going to be able to support the new super fast and updated 5G network, and some analysts are reporting that there's going to be a super cycle of upgrades because people are going to want to use the 5G technology. In investment news, and this is actually pretty big, antitrust subcommittee released a report on the big tech after a 16-month investigation. It's concluding that the four tech giants, Alphabet, which owns Google, Amazon, Apple, and Facebook, have monopoly power, and that antitrust laws need to change and may result in business separations. It's a 450 report, which are recommending structural separations and prohibiting dominant platforms. Now, I'm a capitalist, right? I came to this country in the United States was absolutely nothing. I, grew up in the U.S., worked hard, lived the American dream. Now I have a lot of different businesses in real estate. So I am all for low regulation and a capitalist environment. However, I don't think it's fair what we have going on with a lot of these companies because a lot of them control so much. We have the censoring going on. For example, you have to be really careful. For example, you can't split up the big banks because if you split up the big banks, we're not going to be able to compete with the big banks in China and Europe, for example. So we have to think more on a global basis. However, a lot of these big tech companies, I think YouTube, for example, should be split from Google. I think Amazon, for example, shouldn't be allowed to buy companies like Whole Foods. They shouldn't be forced to stay into their industry. And Facebook, for example, they should get WhatsApp and Instagram stripped from their business. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if you guys know, there's an article called Article 230, which allows them to not get sued because they're supposed to be a free speech platform. But now we have a lot of situation where they're deciding what things, we see it a lot with Twitter. They're even trying to censor the president, for example. Whether you think it's right or wrong is irrelevant. What's relevant is that they shouldn't be doing that to anybody, no matter who it is. So this could actually be big, especially if Trump wins the election, because they're probably going to come down hard on a lot of these companies. India has given over a dozen firms new incentives to be able to invest in the country's smartphone industry. They want to create a new manufacturing hub. It's an ambition campaign from the Prime Minister Modi, which is going to try to rebrand the country as a manufacturing hub for a lot of these smartphones. 16 firms, including suppliers from Samsung and Apple, are going to start making their components in India as well. And this is part of the change, the dynamic, kind of the shift that we're seeing with what happened with the coronavirus and the perceptions with a lot of these countries changing. For example, the U.S. realized that our medication, for example, is made in India and also in China, and a lot of that is going to come back home now, including things in Europe. Inside markets are pricing in a potential victory for Biden as well. If you guys know, Biden is for the Green New Deal. It's on his website. So a lot of the clean energy companies and ETFs are starting to rise as well. So far in the month of September, it's gone 14%. The ETF for the iShares Global Clean Energy Fund, and that's compared just 4% for the gains in the S&P 500. And that's for October. I said last month. It's actually for October. In international events, heavy rains have caused extensive damage in Chad, Niger, and also Nigeria. I don't know if I said this on the English side. I did this on the Spanish videos, where get prepared, because in the next 10 years, we're going to have a lot of problems with economic problems, social problems, even environmental problems. And I don't think it necessarily has to do with climate change. I don't know if you guys know that I can do a video on this if you want, but the actual magnetic North Pole of the Earth is literally moving. It's always moved, but now it's literally moving a lot faster, where the military in the UK and the US have had to recalibrate a lot faster the magnetic and GPS. For example, the GPS on your phone is from satellites that are based on the magnetic North Pole. And that could, for example, be one of the reasons that we're going to have a lot of these problems that are coming up. The Chad, for example, the country, the rainy season is the heaviest in the last 30 years, and Nigeria and also Nigeria have definitely been affected quite a bit. Europe is also struggling with a second wave of the virus. Czech Republic now has the highest number of cases per 100,000 people in Europe, surpassing Spain. Netherlands is hitting a daily record on virus cases. Russia's hitting a daily record as well, and a lot of them are saying, even the UK now as well, they're saying that they're probably going to have to institute lockdowns for the entire country, not only the section where it's at. And something that's interesting, if you actually look at the facts and the numbers, the virus is highly contagious, yes, but it's not highly deadly. There's a 99.96% survival rate. That's the numbers from the CDC. And we also have states like South Dakota, for example, and Sweden that never shut down, never mandated masks, never put restrictions on their economy, and they're not even getting a second wave. So we might actually be doing this completely wrong, which begs the question, why are we doing it in the first place? Tuesday, USA joined 38 other countries in signing a joint statement for the UN condemning China for the human rights abuses again in Xinjiang and Hong Kong, as well as requesting a UN investigation into the situation. In Russia, law enforcement in the Far East broke up anti-Kremlin protests that have been prolonged for the last 3 months. And we have the situation also in Azerbaijan and Armenia, which Russia negotiated a ceasefire on Friday, and then within 24 hours it was already broken. So that's a bit of a conflict that's been going on for decades, and if you guys don't know what's going on there, the original problem essentially is religion-based, right? We have Armenia, which is mostly a Christian nation. We have Azerbaijan, which is a Muslim nation. And now we have other situations as well, territories and other things as well. But this can actually pop off to be a much bigger problem because Russia supports Armenia, where Turkey supports Azerbaijan. So we might have a situation where these Turkey and Russia can go at it. Now, I don't think it'll get that high, but there is a situation that it could get that bad. In unusual facts this week, total wealth, the world's billionaires reached a new record high in the middle of the pandemic. Now, one of the things that's funny is, and I wanted to mention this on video, Jeff Bezos, look up the video. Jeff Bezos was asked, do you think it's unfair that you have created, or you have $132 billion of wealth while other people don't? And he said, well, actually, I've created over $730 billion worth of wealth for other people. So what we have going on right now, it's literally the biggest transfer of wealth, in my opinion, in history, where a lot of these states have shut down their economies and small businesses can't function anymore. But it's okay if Walmart stays open. Amazon, it's great for the shutdowns. Everybody's ordering stuff from Amazon, right? So at the end of the day, I don't think this is a matter of the rich getting richer being a bad thing. I think this is a situation where it's bad governance, where they're shutting down the small businesses and that business is going to the larger companies. And if you guys see the states where this is actually happening, I think you guys can presume a result of what's actually happening in these states. For example, South Dakota never closed, ever. I don't see more people dying in South Dakota because they never shut down, right? They even denied. They told Trump and the administration that they didn't want money for aid because they were already doing well. Their economy has already recovered. Billionaire wealth has increased by $10.2 trillion at the end of July, with eclipsing, I should say, a previous peak of $8.9 trillion in 2017. And the total number of billionaires is increased by 31 to 2,189 since 2017. Now, this is something that I think is pretty serious, and also hasn't happened in our history since the revolution, where the FBI thwarted a plot by anarchist militiamen who did attend BLM protests that they're going to hold them for treason in a Democratic Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer. So they essentially tried to kidnap and overtake the governor because of the shutdowns, which have already been proven by the Michigan Supreme Court that are unconstitutional. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this kind of stuff, I don't recognize the United States anymore. This is stuff that happens in banana republics like Mexico and Colombia, kidnappings and potential overthrow of governments, not in the United States. And I think this is just a small piece of what is coming, and I hope you guys are preparing, because I do think things are going to get much, much worse, not only economically, but also socially and also environmentally. So we'll see if that actually plans out. And then another interesting piece of information as well, Levi Sapne Tang, which is a Myanmar, I had to read that name because it's quite complicated, Myanmar-born perfume entrepreneur and missionary, bought for $1 million the rights of 35,000 hectares of oil and gas leases offered by the Trump administration since August. She bought 47% of the acreage offered by the BLM, which is the Bureau of Land Management. So while everybody was worried about the coronavirus and even oil going negative, for example, in March, we have this astute entrepreneur come in and literally buy up 47% of all of the gas leases that was offered by the Trump administration. She's going to make a fortune when oil goes back up. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to hit the like button. It helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. If you guys have any questions, don't forget to put hashtag AskMarcello, and we'll see you next week.